Reality is catching up to the EV market as demand cools amidst high interest rates and the damage wrought by inflation. But what is the potential impact of a cooling EV market on silver demand? Stick around to find out. Welcome back, and before we begin, please take a moment to like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you. Over the past few years, the recipe for surging silver demand has become clearer. The formula is pretty simple. Economic growth combined with electrification should create a massive boost in demand for silver, as silver is a necessary component for an economy that is shifting gears away from fossil fuels. Silver's ascent would be all but guaranteed as government spending fuels demand in silver-heavy industries. Well, that was the idea, but as so often happens, we find ourselves slightly off track. Let's take a look at some numbers. According to the Silver Institute, the vast majority of silver demand comes from industrial demand. When we look at net physical demand for silver bullion as a percentage of the total supply since 2020, it has never gone above 33%, or 1/3 of total demand. In 2020, silver bullion demand was 21% of supply. In 2021, it was 27%. And in 2022, it was 33%. Now, 2023 is forecast to be just 30% of the total supply. Now, for the industrial component, there are many applications for silver. The Silver Survey breaks it down into electrical and electronics, which then breaks down into solar power, brazing alloys, and other industrial, which is a catch-all for various industrial activities. Now, this bucket makes up 51 to 56% of the total supply each year. And this is where we find the green revolution technologies are bucketed under, as silver is used in all kinds of things, in varying quantities. Now, for electrical vehicles, the amount varies as well. We've seen many different estimates about the total silver consumption, but we commonly see something like 25 to 50 grams being estimated. Now, for a hybrid vehicle, it's estimated to be in the range of 18 to 34 grams. Someone started a rumor that Teslas have a kilogram of silver in them. That appears to be fake news. We haven't found an official source validating that claim, but if someone does have a source, please post it in the comments below. Thank you. So it appears that silver consumption is set to rise if more EVs hit the market and are bought by consumers. But there's a catch. EV growth has dramatically slowed. Let's take a look at some recent statements, then we'll look at more numbers to try and understand whether it's something to be concerned about or not. The share of electric cars in total sales has gone from 4% in 2020 to 14% in 2022. At the start of the year, we were expecting to see something like a 35% increase in sales. But we were also expecting to see the rate hike slow down a little, and we think that may have factored into projected demand. So most recently, GM CEO Mary Barra and other industry executives slashed their targets for 2024 EV sales in recent quarterly earnings calls. They abandoned their targets to build 100,000 EVs in the second half of 2023 and 400,000 in the first half of 2024. Worse, they don't know when they'll hit those targets, so it's just up in the air. They're not alone, with Ford announcing in November 2023 they would be cutting production capacity of their EV plant in Michigan by about 43%. The plant is not expected to open until 2026, so perhaps it's still a bright spot to consider they are still moving forward, just at a more conservative pace. Mercedes-Benz took a somber note as well, with their CFO saying it's a brutal space and slashing the prices of EVs. We haven't seen any forecasts yet that have taken these new outlooks into account or revised their projections. So let's unpack things a little bit to understand what's blunting EV demand. There are many valid concerns and understandable challenges. First, electric vehicles are expensive and interest rates are very high. It's for the wealthy at this point because the middle class and the working poor cannot afford it. Second, we just mentioned that Mercedes-Benz slashed prices by thousands of dollars. Others have too. And there's a real concern among new EV buyers that they'll purchase a car and go to resell in a few years, but the price of a new car suddenly discounted seriously undercuts the value of their used vehicle. This harms the secondary market for EVs and makes new EV buyers wary. Electric vehicles also have about an estimated 80% more maintenance issues than gas vehicles, and any used EV owner will be concerned about battery life. And the last big item recently trending in all the news related to the lack of a green supply chain for all our electronics, including the bits and pieces that make up an electric vehicle. Turns out that car batteries are not so green, and the mines that provide the rare earth metals are not always following modern human rights practices. So one of the attractive aspects of an EV is supposed to be a green alternative that's better for the environment and for humanity, suddenly no longer a certain benefit. This doesn't even begin to touch on concerns regarding batteries in cold weather environments, range anxiety, tow capacity, and other issues that EV owners have. So what impact does this have on silver? Well, there's good and bad news for silver bugs. First, there's just over 31 grams of silver in a troy ounce. So putting it in those terms, one electric vehicle has about 1 troy ounce of silver to the best of our knowledge, some higher, some lower. And total silver supply today comes out to a bit over 1 billion ounces of silver, including recycling supply and mining supply. And while there's about a troy ounce of silver in an EV, replacing an ICE vehicle or internal combustion engine vehicle doesn't mean that an additional troy ounce was used, because there is silver in an ICE vehicle as well, about half as much. So for every new electric vehicle on the road that replaces an ICE vehicle, the estimates suggest that silver demand increases by an additional 10 to 22 grams. So we'll say about half an ounce as a very rough estimate. Annual car sales worldwide were approximately 81.4 million autos in 2022. Based on the numbers, we can estimate this means somewhere in the neighborhood of 5.7 million ounces of additional silver were used than if we had produced ICE vehicles. So the good news for silver investors is that while we have seen a decline in EV demand, it does not appear that EVs are going away next year. They just aren't growing very quickly. So the additional capacity that exists will probably stay and keep slightly elevated demand in place. But the bad news is that all those forecasts are probably not going to make it. If you were counting on an EV revolution to put pressure on silver stocks, run up a shortage, and cause the value of silver to spike, it seems less likely today with waning demand. We're also taking a reality check here about the EV revolution and global silver consumption generally. This is a mixed bag. Yes, we have elevated demand from EV adoption for silver, but how much is that affecting things really? Considering worldwide supply is about 1 billion ounces of silver per year, we're not convinced that EV adoption will be the big catalyst for a silver depletion event. Even if worldwide all autos went to the EV route, it would mean an extra 40 to 50 million troy ounces of silver each year were consumed. And even the rosiest projections did not consider full electrification to be a possibility for decades. If we are looking for green technologies that consume silver to strain the market, we think the amount of silver in solar panels is an area worth monitoring more than EVs. Photovoltaics are projected to consuming an eye-popping 160 million ounces of silver in 2023, up 60% from 2020. The Build Back Better bill earmarked $555 billion for clean energy and climate change initiatives, and we think that's going to give solar a bright future. Considering the growth there and the total silver consumption, I think solar is a better area to watch than EVs at this time when considering a silver supply strain. Now, wildcards in the market include subsidies, the amount of silver used to upgrade infrastructure to support EVs, government regulation and spending, the price of gasoline, and actions taken by the Fed. No one has a crystal ball and can say for certain what will happen in the future, but for right now, it's best to keep our eyes on the auto sector while we continue to stack silver and on photovoltaics as well. That's all we have for you today. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.